And from this brand new project and tool, we will go to one of the very well established instances, which is the Incunabula short title catalog. Karen Limper-Herz is lead curator, Incunabula and 16th century printed books at the British Library in London. She also has a lot of other honorary degrees and tasks, and she will present to us the ISTC together with John Goldfinch, who was head of Incunabula at the British Library from 2004 to 2014, and has been involved with ISTC since 1984. And I think our first meeting dates back some years after this 1984 date. Their subject, talking about past, present, and future of ISTC, is very well established among these two speakers. You have divided the task between yourselves.
Thank you. Thank you very much to Christina and the project for inviting us. I feel on a personal level as if I've been revivified at a séance to be able to appear to you today. When the ISTC began at the British Library in 1980, I don't think anyone really would have supposed. I don't think anyone would really have supposed that we would be here referring to it today, except, of course, for its founder, Lotte Hellinger, who, of course, never doubted that it would be successful. As I said, I'm here to talk about the past. Now, since its foundation, ISTC has been managed at the British Library in London, but nearly all its success has derived from the enthusiastic support of Incunabula projects across the world. ISTC started life as an amalgamation of the information. Can you make that?
Sorry.
Can you get the next one?
Yes, I will try.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
No, up there. No, that wasn't me.
Well,
just keep going.
yes,
Yeah.
I shall just.
No. No. Just keep going.
Yeah. ISTC started life as an amalgamation of the information provided by Goff's American Census, the IGI for Italy, IDL for the Netherlands, Paulin's Belgian Census, with information from Dennis Rhodes's unpublished census of British Incunabula in the UK. As soon as we had put this information together, we had actually produced the largest single repertory of Incunabula editions available at that time. One of the intentions of ISTC was to provide an easy-to-use index to the ever-expanding world of Incunabula bibliographies and catalogues. Deliberately, ISTC followed the established technical model of the 18th century short title catalogue, now the English short title catalogue, also based at the British Library, and also an international collaboration. We had no intention of setting out technically into a new direction. To start with, ISTC aimed to contain brief information on all known surviving editions of books printed in the 15th century. Information collected along the way ensured that, as well as editions, ISTC has also come to act as a census of surviving copies of Incunabula. From the beginning, ISTC's aim was in many ways very different from that of the Gesamtkatalog der Wiegendrucke. Only rarely has ISTC provided incipit and explicit transcriptions, collational formulae, details of numbers of leaves, or details of types. We have always felt this is the GW's area of expertise, but also users of Incunabula information really need to consult both databases. As ISTC was in machine-readable form from the beginning, and always tried to use existing data structures and infrastructure so that we would be able to react flexibly to technological developments. In this way, we were able to keep up our momentum and achieve a rapid increase in data and in the number of records. In 1984, the database was made available for searching online through the British Library's subscription Blazeline service. In 1989, ISTC was chosen as the host for the proposed German Incunabula census, based at the BSB in Munich. And in 1991, the long-intended revision of the Italian census was begun using the ISTC and based at the National Central Library in Rome. 1991 also saw the beginning of the project to revise the census of Incunabula in the United States. In 1994, the European-funded Incipit project was launched, and in 1996 and 1998, 2 versions of the illustrated ISTC CD-ROM were published, applying the then developing technology of digital imaging and trying to see if we could link images to bibliographical data. In 1997, ISTC records were loaded into the printed book database, the hand-printed book database at CERL. The British Library's online service closed in 2002, and in 2003, we were relieved to be able to launch a then experimental free website hosted for us by the University of Liverpool. Now, ISTC has always relied on, and it still relies on, collaborations with and contributions from other institutions and researchers. Over the years, contributions have been received directly from a number of countries that you can see on the slide. Individuals in many other countries have also supplied information, and the ISTC editors extracted information from catalogues, bibliographies, articles, anything that they could come by. And in the more recent years, as the GW has, from online catalogues and websites. So in this way, information has come from countries such as Hungary, Poland, and Spain. The next one. The moving to a website gave us a number of new opportunities to experiment with input and editing, to share the editing, especially with our offices in Rome and in Munich, and also for the first time the facility to link to other digital projects, of which we were particularly pleased with the linking to the Dutch paper database, to some libraries of digital surrogates and other web-enabled catalogues. Final. By 2005, ISTC contained nearly 30,000 entries, of which 27,460 were pre-1501. And as you can see, Karen has revised that to show some of the current information. One thing you do find if you move from one system to another, suddenly the sums come out differently. But that's another story. One more thing. Yeah. I just want to say thank you to all of the people who assisted us over the years. A number of you are here today or have been present during this conference, people who have sent in information for individual libraries, people who have really sweated blood and spent months of their lives devoted to ISTC. I wanted to mention 2 names of people who can't be with us, who have died in recent years, but whose legacy really is the quality and the extent of records in ISTC. These are Gerard van Tienen, who we've already heard of, from the National Library in the Netherlands, who in the early days, contributed thousands of records, corrections, amendments, additions to ISTC, and continued to do this throughout the rest of his life. And someone who will be known possibly to very few people here, Craig Mitchell of the British Library, who edited the original file, knocked it into shape, sorted out all the things that had gone wrong in the initial keyboarding, and gave us an intellectual structure that we could use.
Great. So where are we now, and what have we changed since ISTC's Liverpool incarnation, which you're all very familiar with? For many researchers, ISTC is now the starting point for their work, from where they move on to other databases, digital surrogates, or individual library catalogues. It is still a comprehensive list of 15th century editions and a census of surviving copies, but it has undergone a number of changes and developments over the years. From the British Library's Blazeline service via CD-ROMs and Liverpool to CERL, ISTC has moved several times. All moves brought with them changes and opportunities, as well as issues and challenges. The file is now hosted by CERL and looked after by Alex Janke and his team at the Data Conversion Group in Göttingen. The editorial centre remains at the British Library in London, and our regular contributors, Munich and Rome, have retained their full editorial rights. The British Library decided to move ISTC to CERL because it was keen to secure the database's survival within a European context. The move was also necessary for two other reasons. Firstly, we needed a safe and reliable host for the data. With a constantly growing database, we have to ensure all data is safe and we cannot risk any major data loss. Secondly, we needed to move to a more flexible software that can cope with and accommodate the changes and developments we need to implement in order to keep the file relevant for Incunabula researchers in the 21st century. This has also allowed us to make ISTC mobile device friendly for the first time in its history. The data was moved from Liverpool to CERL in the summer of 2016, and just before Christmas that year, ISTC was made available to researchers. The current interface looks very different from the one in Liverpool, but it is very familiar to researchers using other CERL databases, such as May. There were, of course, teething problems in the transfer of the data, and we had a number of comments and suggestions from our regular users, many of whom are among the audience. These are now being addressed. Overall, however, the move to CERL was a success. All updates are now instant, and all changes can be seen straight away. This makes working with contributors a lot easier, as they can review and comment on any changes we've made straight away. The URLs for all records are now stable, so if you add them to your catalogue, they will be easy to translate into new URLs should the file need to move again in the future. The database structure is clearer and more flexible, and we are no longer hampered by a limit on the number or size of fields. ISTC is currently available in English and in German, and the language is set depending on the user's IP address. Hello? No, sorry, it's gone wrong. Yeah, that one. Sorry. For those outside Germany, English is, of course, the default. There are plans to develop interfaces in other languages, above all Italian, in due course. The functionality of ISTC is unchanged, but the display has become clearer. The bibliographical part of the entries, as well as the order of the fields within the body of the record, remains the same, and all fields can be searched or browsed. You may remember that the ISTC used to contain countries of holding institutions called Other and Other Europe. These were a compromise which enabled us to accommodate more countries than the system had fields for. Fortunately, the new software does not have such constraints and can accommodate all countries individually. The holdings are therefore now listed by country in alphabetical order of English country name, with all holding institutions listed alphabetically. No, hold on. Within each country. The alphabetical sorting by English country names means that in the German interface, which you can see on that side, the order is, for technical reasons, slightly out. So Deutschland, for example, appears under G for Germany. The listing of individual holding institutions, however, within each country, allows users to get a more accurate picture of the distribution of surviving copies and of individual editions around the world. We've also added a counting tool. As an interim solution, however, this is currently a location count because details of the numbers of copies held by institutions are contained within the general copy-specific notes field and not yet in a field of its own. Users can also download data from ISTC and save it in different formats, and Alex is going to talk about that in more detail later. Every user can also create a login, which enables them to save searches or individual entries and revisit them at a later stage. The search field currently consists of one box only. Users have to construct their searches by not only entering their search terms, but also the codes for the fields to be searched. All fields are searchable and can be combined, and while the search is very powerful and accurate, it is also labor-intensive and potentially prone to errors and typos. While it is, of course, still possible to enter search terms in the search box without using the field codes, the results are less reliable than when the field codes are entered and specified. So what are we going to do next? Responding to user feedback, we're currently working closely with Alex Janke to improve the file further and have made enhancements to the search functionality our highest priority. While the simple search will remain, and you can still search for a random selection of terms or specify the fields to be searched by entering the field codes, we will add an advanced search. This will contain a combination of drop-down lists, free text fields, and suggester fields to allow you to construct more complex searches without having to enter the field codes together with your search terms. The file will show you the number of records retrieved for each search term entered, so you can see how far you're limiting your search results by entering more search terms. When you click on the number next to the search box, the search will be carried out and the list of records will be displayed. The display of the results will also change. You'll be able to look at a short list of records or at a more detailed list. From each entry in the short and detailed lists, you'll be able to go to the full record. You'll also be able to search your results alphabetically, chronologically, by author title, by oldest date of publication, ISTC number, newest date of publication, country of publication, place of printing, or printer. The facets will allow you to limit your results by format, country of holding institution, and country of publication only at the moment, due to display limitations. So these are the changes that we are making right now, and all being well, this should all go live next week. In addition to continuing to make small changes and additions and tidying up the records, we also plan to do the following. We move from the counting of holding institutions to a counting of copies by adding a new field, which is just for the number of copies held by an institution. We will add more links to digitized Incunabula, including for the first time the British Library's unique and English Incunabula. And we also hope that you will continue to send us links to the Incunabula you will hopefully continue to digitize. We plan to add links from holdings in the ISTC to records in May, where these are available. And we will look at a closer link to the CERL thesaurus. We're also working on providing full institution names, which are already available for holding institutions in the US, and we hope to change the codes, which are currently used for all other countries and locations, into institution names, or at least allow you to click on them should you not know what a code means. ISTC is, and always will be, a work in progress. For all the changes and improvements we have made, we make now, and we will make in the future, we rely very much on you to work with us, to tell us where we're doing well, and, of course, where we could do better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen and John. We will have a slight change in the agenda because Karen has to leave us quickly to catch her train. So she asked us to take in any questions from the audience which do relate to ISTC now. So may I ask whether there is a burning question, I think especially to the future of ISTC? Well, one? No, but, oh, come on, yeah. Jan, please, Jan.
That was not the case in the past, because during the last move, all the links we made with digital libraries and catalogs have been broken. So my question is, what sort of real permanent URL have you developed?
The URLs are stable in that they're all constructed in the same way. So if we change the URL, you will be able to link to a dedicated data path to get to the relevant record in the new database. Alex will probably be able to give you the technical background to all of this. But before, the records were not stable. When you added them to your records, they were not always the same, if you see what I mean. So they didn't always look the same. So now that you have the ISTC search underscore and the ISTC number, which takes you straight to that particular record, and that will be easy to translate because the basic structure of all URLs is the same.
Yeah, thank you, but what we hope is a real stable chain. For example, an ARC system.
Yeah. Yes, hopefully, yes.
No other questions? I think this shows that it is a well-networked community and that we have easy access to ISTC people even outside of this conference and room.